Have you ever noticed how noisy life can get inside your mind and all around you? So many thoughts, distractions, and pressures pull you in different directions every day. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, tired, or stuck, even when you want to move forward and live with purpose. But what if the secret to making things go your way isn't about doing more or shouting louder? What if it starts with something very simple, learning how to use silence and calm to your advantage? In this video, we're going to explore how quieting your mind and slowing down your pace can open the door to greater focus, better decisions, and stronger control over your life. You'll learn practical steps to reduce mental clutter, manage your emotions, and act with clear intention. This isn't about magic or quick fixes. It's about building habits that protect your energy and help you lead with confidence and calm, no matter what life throws at you. If you're ready to stop feeling scattered and start moving steadily toward your goals, stick with me. We'll break down simple everyday ways to bring more peace into your mind and strength into your actions. By the end, you'll see how silence isn't empty. It's a powerful tool that can help everything flow in your favor. Let's get started. Chapter 1. Embrace silence daily to master your inner thoughts. Silence is not emptiness. It is where everything meaningful begins. The world around you never stops speaking. The traffic, the screens, the constant notifications, the background chatter, they all push noise into your mind until your own voice gets drowned out. That voice inside you, the one that knows who you are and what you need, starts to disappear beneath the distraction. But when you embrace silence, you take back control. You stop reacting and start understanding. You don't just hear yourself, you finally listen. Every day, most people wake up and immediately invite noise into their life. They check their phone, they turn on the news, they rush into conversations and expectations before they've even had a moment to collect themselves. Their mind becomes a battlefield of thoughts that aren't truly there. Worries from the media, opinions from others, fears from past experiences, pressure from the future. It all blends into a storm, and in that storm, they forget what they believe, what they value, and what truly matters. But the moment you sit in silence, even for just 5 minutes, something shifts. You begin to see the noise for what it is: temporary, unnecessary, disruptive. You begin to recognize how much of your thinking has been shaped by things outside of you. You begin to realize how much energy you've given to thoughts that don't serve your growth, and you start to feel something rare: peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, strength that doesn't need to prove anything, clarity that cuts through the confusion. Silence gives you access to your true self. Not the version of you that's constantly explaining, defending, or performing, but the one that exists underneath all of it. The one that doesn't need approval to be confident. The one that can sit alone without feeling lonely. The one that understands that power isn't about volume, it's about direction. The more time you spend in silence, the more you learn to direct your life with intention, instead of reacting out of habit. This is not about being quiet in every situation. It's not about avoiding people or rejecting conversation. This is about using silence as a practice, a space where you can return to yourself every single day, a space where you're not trying to fix anything or force clarity. You're simply watching your thoughts, breathing through your feelings, and remembering that you don't have to chase everything that comes into your mind. You can choose what stays, you can choose what grows. When you create that space daily, your mind begins to reset. You start to see patterns you couldn't see before. You notice when your thoughts become repetitive, self-critical, or rooted in fear, and instead of being pulled into them, you can pause. You can say, "That thought is not helping me," and let it go. You build a stronger filter between stimulus and response. That's what mastery is, not controlling every thought, but choosing how you respond to it. One of the most powerful things silence gives you is distance. Distance from noise, distance from urgency, distance from the false belief that you have to always be doing something to be worthy. It shows you that clarity is not found by doing more. It's found by doing less of what distracts you from your own inner wisdom. The more you make time for silence, the less you need approval, the less you need distraction, the less you fear being alone. And in that shift, you begin to grow. You stop reacting to life. You start shaping it. In practical terms, this begins with a simple step. Set aside 10 minutes a day to sit in silence. No phone, no music, no podcast. Just you. You don't need to sit cross-legged or light a candle. You don't need to call it meditation. Just sit and breathe. At first, your mind will race. It will try to fill the silence with random thoughts. That's normal. Let the thoughts pass without judgment. Don't fight them. Just return to your breath. Over time, the thoughts slow down. The space between them expands, and in that space you start to feel peace. Do this first thing in the morning, before the world enters your head. It will become a foundation for your day. You will walk through life more aware, more calm, more rooted in your values. You will notice how quickly others get pulled into urgency, and how deeply grounded you've become. You will start to hear what your own mind is trying to tell you, what it needs, what it's afraid of, what it's ready to release. And the more you listen, the more power you gain. When you master your inner world, the outer world loses its grip on you. You stop needing to control everything. You stop being drained by things you cannot change. You learn to observe without absorbing. You stop being reactive. You stop wasting energy on arguments that don't matter, on people who don't listen, on expectations that don't fit who you've become. You conserve your strength for what matters. You act with purpose, not pressure. One of the hardest parts of silence is that it reveals things we've been avoiding. When you stop moving, all the things you've been running from begin to rise. The grief, the fear, the guilt, the pain. They come to the surface not to punish you, but to be seen, to be felt, to be released. Silence isn't always peaceful at first. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but that discomfort is where growth begins. You stop pretending to be okay. You face the truth, and you free yourself from the burden of suppression. You cannot heal what you refuse to hear, and silence helps you hear it. When you embrace silence every day, you build emotional strength. You learn to sit with discomfort without needing to escape. You learn that feelings don't last forever. They rise, they peak, and they pass, and the more you allow them, the less power they have over you. This is resilience. This is self-control. Not the suppression of emotion, but the skill of moving through it with presence. And from this presence, decisions become clearer. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What feels aligned with who I am?" You learn to trust your intuition again, that quiet voice that doesn't shout, but always knows. That inner guide that's been buried under everyone else's opinions. The more you create space to hear it, the more you trust it, and that trust becomes your compass. It leads you out of confusion and into clarity. In a noisy world, silence is a rebellion. It's a commitment to yourself. It's a statement that says, "I will not be ruled by chaos. I will not let the world tell me what to think, who to be, or how to feel. I will pause. I will listen. I will decide. And I will move forward from that place of stillness, not because I'm passive, but because I'm powerful." There will be days when you forget, days when life pulls you in every direction, days when silence feels impossible. That's okay. Begin again. Even 1 minute of quiet breathing can shift your day. Even one deep breath can bring you back to center. You don't need perfection. You need consistency. And each day you return to silence, your inner strength deepens. You'll start to notice how silence affects the way you relate to others. You stop interrupting. You start listening. You become less defensive. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You become a calm presence in tense situations. You don't react to criticism or praise with the same urgency. You stay balanced, and because of that balance, people respect you more. Not because you demand it, but because you embody it. This is how everything begins to flow in your favor. Not because you force it, but because you've removed the resistance. You've cleared the noise. You've aligned your actions with your values. You've become someone who can move through chaos with calm, who can lead without shouting, who can influence without forcing. And that kind of strength is rare. That kind of strength is remembered. As you practice silence, you also begin to redefine success. You stop measuring your worth by how much you do or how loud you are. You start asking deeper questions. Am I at peace? Am I living in alignment with my values? Am I treating people with respect, including myself? These are the questions that silence makes space for. And they are the questions that lead to a fulfilled life. Silence is not the absence of effort. It is the presence of awareness. It is the space where you can reconnect with your purpose, your strength, your discipline. It is where you learn to sit with the parts of yourself that need healing, without judgment. It is where you begin to see that everything you've been searching for already lives inside you, underneath the noise, the pressure, and the expectation. In that space, you discover that your thoughts are not facts, that your emotions are not permanent, that your past does not have to repeat. You see that fear loses its grip when you face it with stillness. That peace is not found in more, it's found in less, and you stop needing external validation to feel good about who you are. So start today. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for life to slow down. Choose a moment of silence, however brief. Protect that moment like it's your most valuable possession. Because in many ways it is. That silence is where your strength grows. That silence is where your wisdom lives. That silence is where you become who you're meant to be. As you move forward, remember that every great change begins with a single shift. A decision to turn inward, to listen, to trust, and to build your life, not on noise, but on clarity. Not on reaction, but on intention. And it all begins with the power of silence. Use it daily. Let it guide you. Let it strengthen you. Let it remind you that you are in control not of everything but of yourself. And that is where real freedom begins. Chapter 2. Remove noise slowly to rebuild mental clarity and strength. Noise doesn't just come from sound. It comes from everything that pulls your attention away from what matters. It fills your mind, clutters your thoughts, and clouds your judgment. It hides behind constant scrolling, scattered conversations, background media, and the endless to-do lists that leave no space for stillness. When you live surrounded by noise, you begin to feel scattered and anxious, even if you can't name why. You start forgetting what peace feels like, and that's when you begin to lose your strength. Not because you're weak, but because you've been pulled in too many directions for too long. Rebuilding clarity isn't about a dramatic retreat or sudden silence. It's about removing noise slowly and intentionally. It's not an overnight transformation. It's a quiet discipline. Each small choice to reduce input gives your mind more space to breathe. When you create more space, you begin to think clearly again. You start to feel grounded, not rushed. Focus returns, direction sharpens, and your sense of control begins to strengthen, not over everything around you, but over yourself. Start by noticing where the noise lives in your life. Noticing is the first step to removing. Maybe it's the constant notifications that never stop demanding attention. Maybe it's the habit of always having something playing in the background. Maybe it's certain people who drain your mental energy with complaints and drama. Or maybe it's the constant consumption of opinions that only confuse you further. Noise has many forms, and you must begin to see it before you can release it. Once you recognize it, don't try to remove it all at once. Instead, take one piece at a time. Begin your mornings without reaching for your phone. Just 5 minutes of quiet instead of jumping into the digital world can shift your entire mood. Spend 1 hour in the evening without background noise. No TV, no scrolling, just presence. Choose one day each week to limit your exposure to media. These acts may seem small, but they train your mind to tolerate silence again. And in that silence, clarity grows. As you remove noise, your mind might resist. It's used to the constant stimulation. At first, the quiet might feel uncomfortable, even empty. But don't mistake discomfort for a problem. That discomfort is your mind adjusting to a slower rhythm. You've been flooded with input for so long that you forgot what it feels like to just be. Let that discomfort pass. And what replaces it is a stillness that allows your deepest thoughts to rise. Thoughts that aren't influenced by trends, or fear, or urgency. Thoughts that come from within. With less noise, you begin to reclaim your attention. You stop reacting to every ping, every buzz, every piece of new information. You stop chasing updates you don't need, and instead, you start directing your attention toward things that build your character. You focus on what strengthens you. You read things that challenge your thinking. You engage in conversations that sharpen your perspective. You give yourself time to reflect instead of just react. And each time you choose depth over distraction, your clarity strengthens. Noise also clouds your emotional balance. When you're constantly surrounded by noise, your emotions become harder to regulate. You feel irritated more often. You become impatient. You react quickly, even when you don't mean to. This is not because you lack discipline. It's because your nervous system is overstimulated. When you begin removing the noise, your nervous system calms. You no longer live on edge. You respond instead of react. You become aware of how your emotions rise, and you learn to navigate them with more control. Another layer of noise is mental clutter. The endless stream of thoughts running in the background. These thoughts often go unnoticed, but they shape your choices, your energy, and your mood. They come from old fears, unresolved stress, and the pressure to meet expectations that aren't even yours. When you slow down, you hear them more clearly. You begin to recognize which thoughts are helpful and which are harmful. You stop identifying with every thought. You begin to create space between what you think and how you act. Rebuilding mental clarity also means protecting that clarity. It's not just about subtracting noise. It's about guarding the quiet you've created. That means setting boundaries, not just with people, but with yourself. You start asking before taking in more information. Does this serve my peace? Does this help me grow? You start limiting conversations that go in circles. You stop absorbing energy that isn't yours to carry. You become selective, not out of arrogance, but out of respect for your own mind. You'll notice that when you remove noise, even your physical space changes. Your environment reflects your mind. If your space is cluttered, your thoughts will often feel the same. Decluttering your surroundings, clearing off a table, organizing a drawer, simplifying your workspace can be an act of mental clarity. It shows your mind that there's room, that you're in control, that your life isn't something happening to you, but something you are actively shaping. This clarity builds strength over time. You begin to rely on yourself more. You don't panic when things go quiet. You don't seek constant input. You become more resilient to chaos because your mind isn't addicted to it anymore. You stop needing everything to be urgent. You start choosing how to spend your energy. That choice is power. That choice makes you steady in storms that used to overwhelm you. One of the most overlooked benefits of removing noise is that you rediscover joy in simple things. A quiet morning becomes something you look forward to. A walk without your phone feels nourishing. A deep conversation without distractions feels like connection. You no longer need extremes to feel alive. You feel content not because everything is perfect, but because your mind is no longer flooded. That simplicity is freedom. That freedom is clarity. And when you have clarity, you see what really matters. You no longer get lost in chasing everything. You start doing less, but with more presence. You choose fewer goals, but pursue them with deeper focus. You stop comparing yourself to everyone else's timeline. You realize that success isn't loud. It's quiet, steady, and intentional. It's built in moments when no one is watching, but you're fully present. That's where your strength grows, in the quiet spaces you create, protect, and return to daily. The world will always offer more noise, more urgency, more content, more distraction, but you don't have to accept all of it. You get to decide what enters your mind. You get to decide what deserves your attention. That decision, made consistently, becomes a habit. That habit becomes clarity. That clarity becomes strength. And that strength becomes the foundation of a life that flows, not from pressure, but from purpose. Chapter 3. Listen deeply to understand yourself and others better. Most people hear, but few truly listen. Listening deeply is a skill that demands presence, patience, and humility. It's not about waiting for your turn to speak or collecting responses in your mind while someone is still talking. It's about stepping outside your assumptions long enough to receive what's actually being said. And even more than that, it's about using silence to understand not just words but emotions, patterns, and intent. When you learn to listen this way, everything changes. Relationships shift, self-awareness expands, confusion fades, conflict softens. The depth of your listening directly impacts the depth of your life. To listen deeply, you must first turn your attention inward. Listening to yourself is not overthinking or chasing thoughts in circles. It's about observing your inner reactions without judgment. It's noticing what stirs you emotionally and what quiets you. It's hearing your fears without running from them. When something makes you uncomfortable, listening means sitting with it instead of numbing it. Every feeling is trying to show you something. Instead of pushing it away, listen. When you learn to hear your discomfort, it begins to lose its control over you. That's how you build self-understanding, by facing what you feel with open attention. Many people feel disconnected from themselves because they never slow down enough to listen. They keep themselves busy, distracted, and occupied. But when you stop filling every moment with something, you begin to hear the truth beneath the noise. You might discover that your anger is really exhaustion, or that your confidence has been hiding behind habits of avoidance. These discoveries don't come through logic, they come through stillness. They come when you stop talking over your own inner voice and start listening instead. When you understand yourself, you begin to listen to others in a new way. You stop filtering everything they say through your own fears and assumptions. You stop reacting to their words as if they're personal attacks or challenges. You hear their story for what it is, an expression of their own experience. You don't rush to fix them. You don't interrupt to insert your own opinion. You hold space. You allow silence. You ask better questions. You listen not to control but to connect. Real listening requires that you slow down your reactions. Not everything needs a quick answer. Sometimes the most powerful response is your presence. When someone is speaking to you, try not to prepare a reply in your head. Instead, give them your full attention. Watch their tone, body language, and pauses. Often what's not said is just as important as what is. If they speak in frustration, ask what's underneath it. If they withdraw, notice what might have triggered that shift. Deep listening helps you see what people are actually trying to say. not just the surface words. This type of listening also applies to people you disagree with. It's easy to listen when you already agree. But growth happens when you can listen even when it's uncomfortable. It means holding back the need to correct, defend, or dismiss. It doesn't mean you have to accept harmful behavior or agree with false ideas. But it does mean you take the time to understand where the other person is coming from. That understanding is power. It allows you to respond with clarity instead of emotion. It gives you the space to act with maturity instead of ego. Listening deeply also requires that you let go of distractions. You can't listen well while multitasking. You can't listen well while thinking about your next task. You can't listen well while checking your phone. Deep listening demands your full presence. That presence is rare and powerful. When people feel truly heard, they soften. They stop defending. They begin to open. That moment of openness builds trust. And trust is the foundation of every strong relationship, whether it's with yourself, your partner, your family, or your colleague. One of the most important times to listen is when you're being criticized. Most people shut down or get defensive. But if you can listen deeply during moments of challenge, you grow faster than most ever will. Every piece of feedback, even if it's poorly delivered, can teach you something. Maybe it reveals a blind spot. Maybe it reminds you of a pattern you've ignored. Maybe it's not true at all. But even that teaches you how to remain calm under judgment. Listening in hard moments shows you who you are under pressure, and once you see that, you can improve it. Listening to your environment is also a skill worth developing. When you slow down enough, you begin to notice the energy of a room, the mood of a conversation, the tension in someone's voice. You pick up on small cues that most people miss. This awareness gives you insight into when to speak and when to stay quiet, when to lead and when to step back, when to comfort and when to give space. These moments of awareness make you more effective in every area of life, not because you're louder or smarter, but because you're tuned in to what others ignore. Listening also deepens your intuition. Your gut feeling becomes clearer when your mind is quiet. You begin to recognize patterns in your thinking. You start to understand which instincts are wise and which are based on old wounds. You can't develop intuition if you never listen to yourself. That quiet voice that nudges you toward growth, that tells you when something feels off, that warns you when you're about to compromise your values. That voice gets stronger when you practice listening deeply. It becomes a source of wisdom that doesn't need validation, only attention. Deep listening is not a personality trait. It's a skill that anyone can build through practice and intention. Start small. Have one conversation a day where your only goal is to listen fully. Spend 5 minutes a day checking in with your own thoughts without trying to fix or change them. Create space in your day where you don't talk, scroll, or plan. Just observe. The more you practice, the more you'll notice a shift. You'll speak less but say more. You'll understand people better. You'll understand yourself more clearly. And in that understanding, you'll begin to build a life that flows with calm direction instead of scattered noise. The ability to listen deeply is a form of leadership. It's how you earn respect without demanding it. It's how you resolve conflict without escalation. It's how you influence others without needing control. It's how you guide your life with wisdom instead of confusion. And it all starts by making the decision to stop filling every silence, to stop reacting automatically, and to stop assuming you already know. Because when you listen without an agenda, you discover things that can't be taught in books or speeches. You discover truth, you discover connection, and you discover a version of yourself that is wiser, stronger, and more grounded than you ever imagined. One of the most important times to listen is when you're being criticized. Most people shut down or get defensive. But if you can listen deeply during moments of challenge, you grow faster than most ever will. Every piece of feedback, even if it's poorly delivered, can teach you something. Maybe it reveals a blind spot. Maybe it reminds you of a pattern you've ignored. Maybe it's not true at all, but even that teaches you how to remain calm under judgment. Listening in hard moments shows you who you are under pressure, and once you see that, you can improve it. Listening to your environment is also a skill worth developing. When you slow down enough, you begin to notice the energy of a room, the mood of a conversation, the tension in someone's voice. You pick up on small cues that most people miss. This awareness gives you insight into when to speak and when to stay quiet, when to lead and when to step back, when to comfort and when to give space. These moments of awareness make you more effective in every area of life, not because you're louder or smarter, but because you're tuned in to what others ignore. Listening also deepens your intuition. Your gut feeling becomes clearer when your mind is quiet. You begin to recognize patterns in your thinking. You start to understand which instincts are wise and which are based on old wounds. You can't develop intuition if you never listen to yourself. That quiet voice that nudges you toward growth, that tells you when something feels off, that warns you when you're about to compromise your values. That voice gets stronger when you practice listening deeply. It becomes a source of wisdom that doesn't need validation, only attention. Deep listening is not a personality trait. It's a skill that anyone can build through practice and intention. Start small. Have one conversation a day where your only goal is to listen fully. Spend 5 minutes a day checking in with your own thoughts without trying to fix or change them. Create space in your day where you don't talk, scroll or plan, just observe. The more you practice, the more you'll notice a shift. You'll speak less but say more. You'll understand people better. You'll understand yourself more clearly. And in that understanding, you'll begin to build a life that flows with calm direction instead of scattered noise. The ability to listen deeply is a form of leadership. It's how you earn respect without demanding it. It's how you resolve conflict without escalation. It's how you influence others without needing control. It's how you guide your life with wisdom instead of confusion. And it all starts by making the decision to stop filling every silence, to stop reacting automatically, and to stop assuming you already know. Because when you listen without an agenda, you discover things that can't be taught in books or speeches. You discover truth, you discover connection, and you discover a version of yourself that is wiser, stronger, and more grounded than you ever imagined. Chapter 4. Observe your reactions to develop emotional self-control. Most people believe emotions control them, but it's the reaction to those emotions that creates chaos or calm. Learning to observe your reactions is the beginning of emotional self-control. It means being aware of what triggers you, how you respond, and what happens after. When something upsets you, your first reaction is not always the wisest. It might be shaped by past experiences, fears, or insecurity. But if you pause and look at what you feel instead of acting on it, you begin to take your power back. You stop being a slave to your impulses and start being the author of your choices. Observing your reactions does not mean suppressing emotion. It means noticing them in real time and creating enough space between the emotion and the response to make a decision. The more often you do this, the more control you gain. That control isn't about holding everything in. It's about choosing your behavior instead of being ruled by temporary emotion. Many people lose their peace, not because of what happens to them, but because of how they react. They lash out, they blame, they avoid, they shut down, they regret, all because they never learned to observe themselves in the moment. It starts with awareness. When you feel angry, anxious, jealous, or impatient, stop and ask what exactly triggered you. What thought came just before the emotion? What story did your mind begin to tell? This takes honesty. You have to be willing to face your insecurities without covering them up. If someone's comment made you angry, was it truly offensive, or did it hit a soft spot you haven't healed yet? If you feel ignored, is it because someone was rude, or because you seek constant validation? Emotional control begins when you stop blaming others for what you feel and start understanding where those feelings really come from. Reacting without observation is automatic. That's why most people repeat the same emotional pattern. They fight in the same way, worry about the same things, and spiral into the same moods. They think their reactions are facts, but they're habits. If you never slow down to examine your responses, they become your identity. You start to believe you're just an angry person, or just a jealous person, but you're not. You're just reacting to emotions you've never paused to understand. Once you begin to observe instead of react, those patterns begin to shift. You see the emotion as something temporary, not something that defines you. One of the best ways to train this skill is to focus on your body. Emotions always show up physically. Tension in your shoulders, tightness in your chest, restlessness in your hands, shallow breathing. These are signals. When you feel them, don't ignore them or try to distract yourself. Tune in. What emotion are you trying not to feel? What reaction are you about to take without thinking? If you can notice the body's response before you explode or withdraw, you gain the chance to choose something different. You move from reacting to responding, and that small shift changes everything. You also need to pay attention to the language you use in your head. Internal dialogue can feed your emotional reaction or calm it. If something goes wrong and you start telling yourself, "This always happens to me," you increase your frustration. If you feel embarrassed and think, "Everyone must be judging me," you feed your shame. These thoughts are often not true. They're emotional stories your mind has repeated for years. But if you observe them instead of believing them, they begin to lose power. You can remind yourself that emotions pass. You can choose a calmer thought. You can take a breath before taking action. Some emotional reactions are deeply rooted. They come from years of unresolved pain. Maybe someone betrayed you years ago and now you react with fear whenever trust is needed. Maybe you were criticized often and now even small feedback feels like a threat. These reactions are not your fault, but they are your responsibility. By observing them with honesty instead of shame, you can start to heal. You can see the reaction for what it is, an old survival habit that no longer serves you. You can choose to do the hard work of replacing it with something healthier. That's what growth looks like, not perfection, but progress. Another powerful practice is reflection after the moment has passed. When you overreact, don't shame yourself. Instead, ask why. What did I feel in that moment? What was I trying to protect? What could I do differently next time? This is how you train your awareness. Over time, those moments of reflection will start to show up before the reaction instead of after. You'll recognize the early signs. You'll pause more naturally. You'll speak more wisely. And you'll carry yourself with more calm, even in stressful situations. Self-control is not cold or robotic. It doesn't mean you never feel anything. It means you own your emotions instead of letting them own you. People who have mastered this skill are not passive. They are powerful. They don't waste energy on petty arguments. They don't let criticism derail their focus. They don't ruin relationships by acting on every mood. They choose their responses with intention. That's not weakness. That's strength. Emotional strength is not about never feeling angry or sad. It's about using those emotions as signals, not weapons. Start by observing one reaction each day. Pick a moment that challenges you, a conversation that triggers irritation, a delay that causes stress, a judgment that stings. Instead of reacting, pause. Watch your body, your thoughts, your impulse. Then breathe. That pause is your entry point to self-control. It may not be easy at first. You might still act on the emotion, but the fact that you noticed is progress, and over time, the space between stimulus and response will grow. In that space, you'll find your freedom. When you learn to watch yourself, you stop making decisions in a rush. You don't respond to emails with frustration. You don't argue from pride. You don't say yes out of guilt. You don't apologize for things you didn't do. Your reactions are no longer impulsive. They're thoughtful. They come from clarity, not confusion. They are shaped by who you want to be, not who you were trained to be. Emotional self-control leads to stability in all areas of life. You manage stress better. You build deeper relationships. You handle change with more ease. You lead yourself before you try to lead others. This doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you choose to pay attention to yourself, when you observe instead of react, and when you take responsibility for how you move through the world. You don't need to fix everything in one day. You just need to slow down, watch what you feel, and build the habit of choosing your response instead of being driven by emotion. That's how you create peace within. That's how you create power without. Chapter 5. Speak less often to increase your influence and impact. People often believe that talking more makes them more important, but real influence comes from saying less and meaning more. The most respected voices in any room are not always the loudest, but the most thoughtful. Speaking less does not mean withdrawing from the world. It means being intentional with your words, so that when you do speak, people listen. In a world filled with noise, silence is rare, and rare things carry value. If you want your voice to matter, it must carry weight, and that weight is built through clarity, restraint, and discipline. When you speak too often, your words become background noise. People stop hearing you because they've heard too much. They tune you out before you even finish. But if you learn to speak only when it matters, your voice becomes something others pay attention to. You create impact, not by dominating conversations, but by contributing only what is essential. This requires a mindset shift. You must value presence over performance, observation over interruption, and reflection over reaction. Speaking less is not a sign of weakness or hesitation. It's a sign of maturity, wisdom, and self-respect. Every time you speak, you either add value or take it away. Words have power, but only when used with care. Before you speak, ask yourself if what you're about to say is necessary, kind, and helpful. Will it move the conversation forward? Will it build trust? Will it add clarity? If the answer is no, say nothing. That silence will do more for your influence than 100 careless words. The people who speak with the greatest impact are those who understand the value of restraint. They know that silence is not empty. It is full of power because it forces others to pay attention when the silence finally breaks. Influence is built through trust, and trust is built through self-control. When you speak only after you've thought something through, people begin to trust your judgment. They know you don't talk just to be heard. They know you don't waste words or speak without purpose. That trust becomes a foundation for influence. It gives you credibility that cannot be bought or faked. You don't have to fight to prove your worth. Your presence and measured words prove it for you. Speaking less also protects your energy. Not every situation requires your opinion. Not every conflict needs your voice. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to win every debate. When you learn to hold back and choose your moments, you conserve your strength for what truly matters. You stop feeling drained by endless conversations. You stop overthinking everything you say. You become lighter, calmer, and more focused. And the people around you begin to sense that calm. They see that you're not reacting, you're choosing. That kind of presence has more power than any argument. One of the most effective habits you can build is pausing before you speak. Just a few seconds of silence gives you time to choose your words more carefully. It keeps you from saying things you'll later regret. It helps you speak from clarity instead of impulse. That pause also signals to others that you are thinking deeply, not just reacting emotionally. It changes the energy of a conversation. It slows things down. It makes space for mutual respect. And when you finally speak, your words carry more meaning because they're not rushed, they're intentional. Another way to strengthen your influence is to listen more. When you spend more time listening than talking, you gain insight into what people really think and feel. You understand their needs, their fears, their goals. That understanding allows you to respond in a way that speaks directly to their reality. You become someone who is not just heard but felt. That emotional connection builds impact. People remember how you made them feel, not how many words you used. Listening deeply gives you that emotional leverage, not to manipulate but to guide with care. Speaking less also trains you to be more aware of your own thoughts. When you stop filling every quiet moment with words, you begin to hear your internal dialogue. You notice the stories you tell yourself. You see where your words are coming from, whether from truth or insecurity, wisdom or ego. This awareness helps you filter your speech. You become more authentic. You stop saying things just to impress or defend or please. You speak from a grounded place, and that grounding builds respect. There's also a powerful benefit to saying nothing when others expect you to react. In heated conversations, silence can be a strength. When someone provokes you, silence signals that you are not easily shaken. You don't rush to defend yourself. You don't need to prove your strength through arguments. You prove it through your calm. This doesn't mean you avoid tough conversations. It means you approach them with clarity, not chaos. You speak with purpose, not panic, and that makes people take you seriously. If you want to be heard more, speak less. Let your silence raise questions. Let your presence speak for you. Let your words be few, but clear and impactful. Practice this in small moments. When someone asks your opinion, take a breath, think, speak only what is needed. When a conversation turns emotional, hold your reaction, watch the moment, speak from calm, not from heat. When you're tempted to explain yourself over and over, stop, say only what's true, and leave it there. Let silence do the rest. As you develop this practice, you'll notice something powerful. People begin to lean in when you talk. They stop what they're doing. They pay closer attention. Why? Because they've learned that when you speak, you say something worth hearing. You're not flooding the space, you're filling it with substance. That kind of presence cannot be faked. It's built over time through discipline, awareness and quiet strength, and it gives you an edge in every area of life, work, relationships, leadership and self-respect. The world doesn't need more noise, it needs more wisdom, and wisdom often speaks in fewer words. Make your words rare, make them thoughtful, make them strong, say less, mean more. When you do, people will remember what you said, not because it was loud, but because it was true. That's how influence is built. Not by saying everything, but by saying the right thing at the right time, and letting your silence speak when words aren't needed. Chapter 6. Slow down your mind to increase daily awareness. Most people move through the day as if they are chasing something invisible. From the moment they wake up, their minds race ahead of their actions. They think about what's next before they've finished what's now. They plan, worry, assume, react, often all within the first hour of waking. This mental rush creates a life that feels full but often lacks depth. Moments blur together. Details are missed. Emotions are stirred by things that don't matter. And what gets lost in the rush is clarity. Slowing down your mind is not about doing less. It's about doing what matters with more focus, more intention, and more peace. When your mind is constantly speeding, you live disconnected from your own presence. You are physically in a room, but mentally somewhere else. You're talking to someone but thinking about something else. You're eating, but not tasting. You're walking, but not seeing. This lack of awareness becomes your default state, and it drains your life of richness. You may still accomplish tasks, meet deadlines, or keep up appearances, but inside there is no stillness. And without stillness, there is no real insight. Awareness does not bloom in a mind that never pauses. You can't understand your thoughts while being pushed around by them. To slow your mind, you must first recognize the pace it's moving at. Most people never stop to notice how fast their thoughts jump from one thing to another. It becomes so normal, they assume this mental speed is just part of life. But speed is not the problem. Lack of control is. When you cannot direct your attention, you are not living with freedom. You are simply reacting to every stimulus, chasing every concern, responding to every ping. And in that constant reactivity, you lose your ability to observe. The first step to taking your mind back is to pause on purpose. Just a few moments of intentional stillness each day can begin to rewire your attention. Sit quietly, even for 1 minute, and simply observe what your mind is doing. No judgment, just observation. That alone breaks the cycle. You don't have to stop all thoughts to slow down. That's not realistic, and it's not the goal. The goal is to become less entangled with them. Most thoughts don't need your immediate attention. You can let them pass without reacting. When you learn to do this, you create space inside. That space becomes the foundation of awareness. Instead of being inside the thought, you are now beside it, watching it from a calmer place. That distance gives you power. You no longer speak from impulse. You no longer respond from fear. You are no longer tossed around by every emotion. You are steady, and that steadiness helps you live more deliberately. Slowing the mind also helps you notice the small, often overlooked things. The softness in someone's voice, the feeling of sunlight on your skin, the moment your body tightens during stress. These little details reveal the state of your inner world. They teach you how your environment affects you. They help you catch stress before it becomes anger. They help you feel gratitude before you start complaining. You don't have to go somewhere far away to reconnect with yourself. You just have to be fully where you are. That shift doesn't require more time, just more presence. Awareness increases not by pushing harder, but by softening your pace. Many people think the solution to mental chaos is to do more, think more, read more, fix more. But often, the real solution is subtraction. Remove the unnecessary, cancel the noise, step back from the rush. When your inner world becomes quieter, life becomes clearer. You begin to make better choices. You stop chasing what drains you. You stop speaking out of habit. You align your actions with what truly matters to you. This doesn't happen in a mind that's constantly racing. It happens when you slow down enough to feel the weight of your thoughts and measure them against your values. A slower mind is not a dull mind. It's a sharper one. When you are no longer overwhelmed by mental clutter, you begin to see patterns more clearly. You recognize your tendencies, your triggers, your habits. You see where your energy goes and whether it's worth it. You understand how certain situations affect your peace. This insight allows you to act instead of react. It gives you a kind of emotional clarity that can't be found in a rushed mind. And from that clarity, you can make decisions that are grounded, not scattered. If you want to build this awareness into your daily life, start small. Begin your morning with 5 minutes of stillness. No phone, No to-do list, no distractions, just breathe and notice your thoughts. Walk slower, eat slower, pause between tasks. Before you respond in a conversation, take a breath. These simple actions retrain your mind to be more present. They teach your nervous system that it's safe to slow down. Over time, this becomes your default state, not rushed, not anxious, but calm and attentive. It's also important to limit the input your mind receives. Not everything deserves your attention. Too much information, even useful information, can create mental clutter. Be selective with what you consume. Don't start your day with headlines designed to trigger fear. Don't scroll endlessly through content that leaves you feeling drained. Protect your mind like you would protect your home. Don't let just anything walk in and take up space. A slower mind requires intentional boundaries. It requires you to say no to noise, even when everyone else is saying yes. You don't have to escape the world to find stillness. You can find it in the middle of your daily routine. While waiting in line, instead of checking your phone, just observe. While washing dishes, focus on the rhythm of your hands. While driving, notice the landscape instead of replaying every stressful thought. These small moments build a habit of mindfulness, and as that habit grows, your mind becomes less reactive, more centered. You stop living on autopilot and start living with clarity. The benefit of a slower mind extends beyond your own well-being. It affects how you show up for others. People feel more seen around you. They feel heard, understood, respected. Your presence becomes more than physical. It becomes a source of calm, and in a world that constantly demands speed and reaction, that kind of presence stands out. It speaks of strength, not weakness. Discipline, not laziness. Wisdom, not hesitation. By slowing your mind, you begin to reclaim your life one moment at a time. You don't need a perfect environment or a special schedule. You just need the willingness to pause, to observe, to return to the moment again and again. And the more you do that, the more you realize that peace isn't something you have to chase. It's something you create, not through force, but through attention. Not through noise, but through stillness. And once you begin to live from that place, every part of your life begins to align with a deeper sense of purpose. Chapter 7. Reflect alone each morning to sharpen your direction. Starting each morning with a moment of quiet reflection sets a foundation that shapes the entire day. It is in these early moments, free from distractions and the noise of the outside world, that the mind can focus clearly on what truly matters. This practice is not about rushing through tasks or jumping immediately into obligations. Instead, it is about creating intentional space to connect with your inner self, your goals, and your purpose. Reflection in solitude sharpens your direction because it allows you to listen deeply to your thoughts, clarify your intentions, and realign your actions with your values. When you reflect alone each morning, you gain control over the day before it controls you. The first decisions you make set a tone that echoes through your hours. Without reflection, it's easy to get caught in the cycle of reacting to external demands or rushing through routines without meaning. However, by taking time to think quietly about what you want to accomplish, what challenges you face, and what mindset you want to adopt, you prepare your mind to act with purpose. This practice creates mental clarity that guards against distraction and keeps you moving steadily toward your goals. Reflection is an active process, not a passive one. It requires honesty and courage to face where you are versus where you want to be. When you sit with yourself in silence, it becomes possible to identify the habits, thoughts, and fears that may be steering you off course. This recognition is essential for growth. Without it, you might continue repeating patterns that limit your potential. Reflection is the moment when you take stock of your progress and decide what needs adjustment. It's a daily check-in that strengthens your self-awareness and commitment. In these quiet moments, you also cultivate gratitude. Reflecting on the positive aspects of your life can shift your mindset from scarcity or frustration toward abundance and opportunity. This shift isn't about ignoring difficulties, but about acknowledging what is working well and where strength lies. Gratitude creates resilience by reminding you that even in struggle there is value and progress. It encourages a balanced perspective so that your energy is spent building rather than breaking down. Reflection sharpens direction by focusing attention on priorities. Life can be filled with competing demands that pull your energy in many directions. Without intentional focus, important tasks get postponed and your time is consumed by the urgent rather than the meaningful. Morning reflection helps you identify what deserves your attention today and what can wait. This prioritization creates momentum. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by a long list, you start the day knowing exactly where to put your effort. That clarity transforms how you approach your work and relationships. Reflection alone allows for deeper insight into your motivation. Often, people act out of habit or external pressure rather than internal conviction. By stepping back in solitude, you reconnect with why you do what you do. You may discover that some goals no longer serve you or that your values have shifted. This awareness encourages authenticity. You stop living by other people's expectations and start living by your own standards. This alignment between action and intention increases satisfaction and reduces inner conflict. Practicing morning reflection also builds mental discipline. It requires you to set aside distractions like phones, emails, or news and focus inward. This discipline develops your ability to concentrate and resist impulsive reactions throughout the day. The more consistently you reflect, the stronger your self-control becomes. You learn to approach challenges thoughtfully rather than reacting emotionally. Over time, this habit strengthens resilience because your responses are based on reason and clarity rather than stress or confusion. Reflection encourages problem-solving from a place of calm rather than panic. When faced with difficulties, a busy mind often spirals into worry or frustration. Reflection gives space to analyze problems rationally and consider possible solutions. It helps you distinguish between what you can control and what you cannot. This perspective reduces anxiety and empowers action. Instead of feeling trapped by circumstances, you focus on the steps that move you forward. To make morning reflection effective, it should be consistent and free from distraction. Choose a quiet place where you feel comfortable and can sit undisturbed for at least 5 to 10 minutes. Avoid rushing the process or turning it into a checklist. The goal is genuine engagement with your inner world, not a quick task to complete. You might begin by simply noticing your breath to settle your mind, then allowing your thoughts to surface naturally. From there, consider questions like, what is my most important goal today? What challenges do I expect? How do I want to feel? What can I do differently to improve? These questions guide your focus without overwhelming you. Writing your reflections can deepen their impact. Journaling clarifies thoughts and provides a record of your progress. It also helps prevent important insights from slipping away during the busy day. If you prefer not to write, simply hold the reflections in your mind and return to them throughout the day as reminders of your purpose. Either way, the act of setting intentions increases the likelihood of follow-through. Reflection in solitude strengthens your relationship with yourself. It creates a habit of self-check-in that encourages compassion and understanding. Instead of judging yourself harshly for mistakes or shortcomings, reflection invites curiosity and learning. You see setbacks as opportunities for growth rather than failure. This mindset shifts your experience of life from struggle to continuous improvement. You become your own guide rather than your own critic. The benefits of morning reflection ripple outward into your interactions with others. When you start the day grounded and clear, you communicate more effectively, you listen with more presence and respond with thoughtfulness. Your calm centeredness influences the atmosphere around you. People feel your steadiness and respond with trust and openness. This impact strengthens relationships and creates more meaningful connections. Reflection also helps you adapt when life changes unexpectedly. When plans shift or difficulties arise, a reflective mind can pause, reassess, and redirect energy wisely. Instead of panic or frustration, you approach change with flexibility and clarity. You know that your path may bend, but your direction remains steady because it is rooted in self-awareness. The practice of reflecting alone each morning is a simple but powerful tool to sharpen your direction. It invites you to begin each day by tuning in rather than tuning out. It trains your mind to prioritize, to focus, and to act with intention. Over time, this habit builds a life lived consciously, not carelessly. You become an active participant in your own growth, making decisions that reflect your deepest values. This clarity fuels motivation and sustains resilience through challenges. Living with sharpened direction reduces the noise and confusion that drain energy and scatter focus. It creates a stable foundation from which you can pursue your goals with confidence. Every small morning reflection contributes to a larger transformation, a life guided by wisdom and deliberate choice. This practice is not about perfection or rigid routines. It is about commitment to presence and clarity. Each morning you reflect, you reset your compass and move forward with purpose. Reflection alone is not a luxury reserved for special occasions. It is a necessity for anyone who wants to live fully and lead effectively. By cultivating this habit daily, you strengthen the connection between your inner truth and outer actions. You gain the power to navigate life's complexities with calmness and clarity. This power changes everything because it begins with the simple decision to pause and listen before you move. The direction you seek is always within reach when you take the time to reflect alone each morning. Chapter 8. Disconnect from distraction to build true self-discipline. In today's world, distractions are everywhere, pulling attention away from what truly matters. Learning to disconnect from these interruptions is essential for developing genuine self-discipline. Without control over where the mind wanders, it becomes impossible to focus deeply on goals or maintain consistent effort. Distraction weakens willpower and scatters energy, leaving progress slow and unsatisfying. True self-discipline is built through intentional choices that create mental space and protect focus. It requires stepping away from noise and interruptions to regain clarity and strength. Disconnecting does not mean rejecting technology or social connection entirely, but managing their influence with conscious boundaries. Constant notifications and information overload train the brain to jump from one stimulus to another without settling. This habit fragments attention and reduces the quality of work and thought. To build real discipline, it is necessary to reclaim control by creating specific times and places where distractions are minimized or eliminated. This disciplined environment nurtures focus and allows deeper engagement with meaningful tasks. Setting limits on technology use is one practical step toward disconnection. Turning off non-essential notifications or using apps to block distracting websites during focused work periods prevents the temptation to check endlessly. Designating times to review messages rather than responding immediately creates discipline by refusing to be constantly reactive. These choices teach patience and strengthen the ability to resist impulses. Over time, this self-control spills over into other areas of life, increasing overall discipline. Physical environments influence distraction levels as well. A cluttered workspace or noisy setting invites mental chaos. Simplifying surroundings by removing unnecessary items and finding quiet spaces supports concentration. When the environment signals calm and order, the mind naturally follows. Creating a dedicated place for work or reflection that is free from distraction reinforces the habit of focused effort. This intentional setup becomes a foundation for consistent discipline. Practicing mindfulness helps recognize when the mind is drifting toward distraction. Often, distraction happens automatically without awareness. Mindfulness trains attention to return repeatedly to the present task. This skill strengthens through daily practice of focused breathing or brief pauses throughout the day. Becoming aware of distractions before they pull you away allows you to gently guide focus back. This gentle redirection builds patience and endurance in maintaining discipline. Disconnection also involves choosing what to consume mentally and emotionally. Constant exposure to negative news, social comparison, or meaningless content drains energy and diminishes motivation. Being selective about media and conversations protects mental resources. Prioritizing uplifting and constructive inputs nourishes focus and resilience. This conscious filtering is an act of self-discipline that preserves clarity and positivity. Building true self-discipline requires patience and persistence. Disconnecting from distraction is a skill developed gradually through consistent effort. Starting with small changes, like setting short periods of focused work without interruption, builds momentum. As these habits strengthen, it becomes easier to extend focus and resist temptation. Discipline is not about perfection, but steady progress in controlling impulses and protecting attention. Disconnecting creates mental space where creativity and problem-solving flourish. When the mind is not overwhelmed by constant inputs, it gains the freedom to think deeply and clearly. This clarity leads to better decisions and more effective actions. Discipline is born in this clarity because it allows you to act based on intention rather than impulse. Disconnecting is the gateway to this mental state and the foundation of true self-mastery. Self-discipline shaped by disconnection also improves emotional regulation. When the mind is constantly bombarded with distractions, stress and anxiety often increase. These emotional states weaken willpower and make discipline more difficult. Creating quiet and focused time reduces overwhelm and calms the nervous system. This calmness strengthens resilience and the ability to stay on course despite challenges. The discipline to disconnect extends beyond technology. It means saying no to activities or commitments that fragment attention or drain energy unnecessarily. Learning to prioritize and eliminate distractions in all areas of life builds a cohesive and purposeful routine. This focus enables sustained effort toward goals and reduces burnout. Discipline becomes a habit of mindful choice rather than reaction. Building true self-discipline requires redefining your relationship with distraction. Instead of allowing external stimuli to control your focus, you become the gatekeeper of your attention. This power comes from conscious intention and consistent practice of disconnection. The rewards include greater productivity, clearer thinking, emotional stability, and a stronger sense of purpose. In practical terms, create daily routines that include periods of deliberate disconnection. Use these times for focused work, reflection or rest without interruptions. Protect these boundaries fiercely as commitments to yourself. Notice how this practice gradually increases your ability to resist distractions even outside these set times. The brain rewires to value deep focus and sustained effort. Disconnecting is not a one-time act, but a continual practice. Every day presents new distractions and temptations. Self-discipline means renewing your commitment daily to protect your attention. This ongoing effort builds mental strength that becomes a source of confidence and freedom. You become less dependent on external validation or stimulation and more rooted in your own inner direction. The power of disconnection to build self-discipline lies in reclaiming control over your mind's energy. It transforms scattered attention into focused action. This transformation allows you to accomplish more meaningful work and live with greater intentionality. Distraction may be ever present, but it does not have to dictate your life. The choice to disconnect is a choice to lead yourself with strength and clarity. True self-discipline emerges when you consistently choose focus over distraction. This requires awareness, boundaries, and daily commitment. It may feel uncomfortable initially, but discomfort signals growth. With patience and resolve, disconnecting becomes a natural habit that fuels progress and inner peace. This habit creates space where your best work, wisdom, and resilience can thrive. Disconnection sharpens the mind and strengthens character. It frees you from the constant pull of the outside world, so you can attend to what truly matters inside. The discipline you build is not a burden, but a gift, a tool that empowers you to live fully and intentionally. Through this practice, your life begins to flow in your favor, because your attention is no longer scattered but focused on what matters most. This is the essence of true self-discipline, choosing to disconnect to connect more deeply with yourself and your goal. When distractions fade, your clarity grows and your strength multiplies. This growth shapes every part of your life. The power to disconnect is the power to choose your path deliberately and confidently. Embracing this power leads to a life of meaningful achievement and inner peace. Chapter 9. Protect your energy by choosing when to engage. Energy is one of the most valuable resources you have, and protecting it wisely is essential for a life of focus and fulfillment. Every moment you spend engaging with people, tasks, or situations costs energy, sometimes more than you realize. When energy is depleted carelessly, motivation fades and resilience weakens. This is why learning when and how to engage is a critical skill. It allows you to conserve strength for what truly matters and avoid unnecessary drains that leave you feeling exhausted and scattered. Choosing when to engage begins with understanding your own limits and rhythms. Everyone has natural cycles of high and low energy throughout the day and week. Ignoring these rhythms and pushing yourself to engage at all times leads to burnout. Instead, pay close attention to when you feel most alert, creative, and calm. These are your prime windows for tackling demanding conversations, important decisions, or meaningful projects. Engaging during these periods maximizes your effectiveness and preserves energy for longer. Setting clear boundaries is another fundamental practice in protecting your energy. This means learning to say no to invitations, requests, or distractions that do not align with your goals or values. Saying no is not selfish, but an act of self-respect and wisdom. It creates space for focus and allows you to dedicate energy to priorities that nourish you. When boundaries are unclear, energy leaks away in small increments throughout the day until nothing is left for what truly counts. Engagement is not about constant activity, but about deliberate action. Resist the urge to be always on or involved in everything happening around you. Selectivity in participation creates depth instead of scattered effort. By consciously choosing where to direct your energy, you gain control over your time and mental clarity. This discipline builds stamina and confidence because you are investing in what fuels your growth rather than what drains you. Learning to recognize energy vampires is also essential. These can be people who demand excessive attention with negativity or drama. They can be tasks that feel meaningless or exhausting. They can be environments filled with noise and distraction. Awareness of these energy drains allows you to protect yourself by limiting exposure or adjusting how you interact. Sometimes this means stepping away entirely or communicating your need for space. Protecting energy means safeguarding your mental and emotional well-being from unnecessary depletion. Rest and recovery are crucial components of energy protection. When energy feels low, it is a signal from the body and mind that replenishment is needed. Ignoring this signal leads to diminishing returns in effort and increased stress. Make rest a priority by scheduling breaks, sleep, and activities that restore calm. This is not laziness, but strategic energy management. When you return to engagement refreshed, your impact and satisfaction improve dramatically. Mindful presence during engagement enhances energy preservation. Many people expend energy worrying about past mistakes or future outcomes while engaging in the present. This scattered focus creates unnecessary tension and fatigue. Practicing presence means fully experiencing the moment without judgment or distraction. It allows you to respond with clarity and calmness rather than reaction and strain. This quality of attention renews energy rather than depleting it. Emotional self-awareness supports wise energy management as well. Strong emotions, such as anger, anxiety, or frustration, can consume vast amounts of energy if left unchecked. Observing your emotional state before engaging helps decide whether it is the right time to act or whether some processing or calming is needed first. Acting from a place of emotional balance protects energy and leads to better outcomes. It also strengthens resilience by preventing burnout from emotional exhaustion. Energy protection through choosing engagement is a practice that involves both saying yes and saying no. It requires clarity about your purpose and values. When you engage because something truly matters and aligns with your goals, energy flows naturally. When engagement is obligatory or misaligned, energy drains quickly. Honoring this distinction empowers you to invest your strength where it counts most. Technology can be a significant energy drain if not managed with intention. Constant alerts, messages, and social media demand attention and fragment focus. Setting limits on digital engagement and creating tech-free times or zones are practical ways to protect energy. These measures create mental breathing room and reduce overwhelm, allowing you to engage more fully when it matters. Energy is also influenced by the quality of your physical health. Nutrition, hydration, exercise, and sleep all contribute to the body's energy capacity. Protecting energy means caring for the body as the foundation of your mental and emotional strength. Neglecting these areas undermines all efforts to engage wisely and sustain discipline. Choosing when to engage requires developing a deep respect for your own energy as a precious and finite resource. It calls for conscious decision-making and self-observation. It invites you to be honest about what you can handle without compromising your well-being. This honesty creates freedom because it removes the pressure to perform or participate in ways that are draining or unproductive. As you practice protecting your energy, you will notice increased clarity about what deserves your attention and what does not. This clarity reduces overwhelm and creates a sense of calm control. You become less reactive to external demands and more proactive in shaping your life according to your values and goals. Protecting your energy is a form of self-leadership. It is an ongoing commitment to steward your strength wisely so that you can contribute your best to every situation. This leadership requires courage to set limits, patience to rest, and wisdom to choose wisely. It is a skill that grows stronger with practice and yields profound benefits in productivity, well-being, and satisfaction. Energy protection also enhances your relationships. When you are mindful about engagement, you bring more presence and authenticity to interactions. You avoid resentment that builds from overcommitment or exhaustion. You communicate boundaries clearly and kindly, which fosters respect and understanding. These qualities deepen connection and mutual support rather than draining both parties. In summary, protecting your energy by choosing when to engage is a powerful way to create a life of focus, strength, and meaning. It involves tuning in to your rhythms, setting boundaries, practicing presence, and caring for your physical and emotional health. It requires courage to say no and clarity to say yes, only when it serves your highest good. This disciplined approach preserves energy so you can act with intention and resilience. The benefits ripple outward from this practice. Your daily experience becomes less chaotic and more aligned. Your capacity for sustained effort grows. You respond to challenges with calm confidence. You build momentum toward your goals without unnecessary setbacks caused by exhaustion or overwhelm. This practice invites a shift from reactive living to intentional leadership of your own life. It honors energy as the foundation of all achievement and well-being. Protecting energy by choosing when to engage is a transformative discipline that opens the door to a fuller, richer, and more empowered existence. It allows you to navigate life's demands with grace and strength, and ultimately make everything flow in your favor. Chapter 10. Act from calm focus to lead your life with purpose. The ability to act from a place of calm focus is a cornerstone of purposeful leadership in one's own life. When decisions and actions come from calmness rather than chaos, clarity replaces confusion and progress flows naturally. This quality of calm focus is not about passivity or avoidance, but about mastering inner stillness to direct energy with intention and precision. It empowers you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, making every step forward purposeful and effective. Calm focus begins with mastering your inner state. Emotions, thoughts, and impulses can swirl in a storm of distraction and stress if left unchecked. This internal turbulence clouds judgment and leads to scattered efforts. Cultivating calm focus requires training the mind to quiet those storms and hold attention steadily on the present moment. It means observing feelings without letting them dictate action and choosing thoughts that serve rather than sabotage your goals. This state of calm is like a deep reservoir beneath the surface of activity. On the outside you may appear engaged and active, but your inner self remains anchored and clear. From this place, decisions are deliberate and actions aligned with values rather than fleeting desires or external pressures. Calm focus enhances patience and resilience, helping you to persist steadily even when challenges arise or progress slows. Purpose is the guiding star that shapes calm focus into meaningful action. Without purpose, focus can become aimless intensity, chasing distractions or superficial rewards. Knowing why you do what you do adds depth and direction to your efforts. It fuels motivation on difficult days and sharpens discernment about which opportunities deserve your energy. Acting from calm focus with a clear purpose brings a powerful synergy that propels you forward with confidence and integrity. Developing this ability requires daily practice and discipline. One practical step is to pause before action, creating a deliberate space between impulse and response. This pause may be brief, but it invites reflection. Is this the best step? Does it align with my values? What outcome do I want to create? Over time, this habit rewires your automatic responses into thoughtful choices that conserve energy and increase impact. Another key practice is simplifying your environment and commitments to reduce unnecessary mental clutter. When your attention is not fragmented by too many competing demands, it becomes easier to sustain calm focus on what matters. This simplification also involves clarifying priorities regularly to avoid distractions disguised as urgent tasks. A clear sense of priority channels energy efficiently and reduces the temptation to scatter effort across too many fronts. Mindfulness techniques are valuable tools to cultivate calm focus. Practices like controlled breathing, body scans, or brief meditation sessions anchor your awareness in the present moment and help quiet mental chatter. These moments of stillness build neurological pathways that support sustained attention and emotional regulation. Regular mindfulness practice strengthens your capacity to remain grounded in calm focus even during high-pressure situations. Emotional regulation plays a crucial role in maintaining calm focus. Strong emotions such as frustration, fear, or excitement can hijack attention and trigger impulsive actions. Learning to recognize and name emotions without immediately reacting creates distance between feeling and doing. This distance allows you to choose responses that are aligned with long-term goals rather than short-term relief. Emotional mastery contributes to steadiness that inspires trust and respect in others. Calm focus also enhances creativity and problem-solving. When the mind is free from distraction and agitation, it accesses deeper levels of insight and clarity. Solutions arise more naturally and innovative ideas flow with less effort. This quality of mental spaciousness is a resource for leadership in all areas, whether managing projects, relationships, or personal growth. A calm mind supports effective communication as well. Speaking with measured intention and listening fully without rushing fosters clearer understanding and connection. When you lead with calm focus, others feel seen and heard, creating collaborative environments where ideas flourish and conflicts diminish. This presence strengthens influence because it communicates confidence and respect. Physical health underpins the ability to sustain calm focus. Fatigue, poor nutrition, and lack of movement impair cognitive function and emotional balance. Attending to the body through sufficient rest, healthy diet, and regular exercise enhances energy and mental clarity. When physical needs are met, the mind can hold focus more steadily and recover quickly from stress. Resilience is built on calm focus. Challenges are inevitable, but responding with composure rather than panic preserves energy and opens space for constructive action. Calm focus helps you adapt flexibly to change, learn from setbacks, and maintain forward momentum. It cultivates a mindset that views obstacles as temporary and manageable rather than overwhelming or permanent. Leadership of your life through calm focus involves consistency and patience. Growth in this skill is gradual and sometimes subtle, but steady practice compounds into profound transformation. Each day presents opportunities to choose calm over chaos, reflection over reaction, and purpose over distraction. These choices build a strong foundation for sustained success and fulfillment. In moments of high pressure, calm focus serves as a stabilizing force. Rather than rushing to fix problems impulsively, it invites assessment and measured response. This approach reduces mistakes and increases effectiveness because decisions emerge from clarity rather than stress. Developing this discipline empowers you to lead with confidence even in uncertainty. Calm focus also fosters gratitude and perspective. When the mind slows and centers, it becomes easier to appreciate progress, lessons learned, and the present moment's gifts. This balanced outlook reduces anxiety about the future or regret about the past, allowing you to engage fully in purposeful action. Gratitude nourishes calmness and motivation, creating a positive feedback loop. Technology, while useful, often challenges calm focus with constant notifications and distractions. Setting intentional limits on device use supports mental stillness. Creating routines for checking messages and social media at designated times protects attention and reduces the impulse to react automatically. This mindful engagement with technology preserves calm focus and prevents fragmentation of effort. Trusting yourself is a natural outcome of calm focus. When you act from a centered place, confidence grows because you know your actions reflect careful thought and alignment with your values. This trust diminishes self-doubt and hesitation, enabling more decisive and effective leadership of your life. Confidence rooted in calmness is steady and unshakable. In relationships, leading from calm focus enhances connection and cooperation. You listen more attentively, respond more thoughtfully, and communicate more clearly. This presence invites respect and openness, rather than conflict or misunderstanding. The ability to remain calm amid emotional exchanges models emotional intelligence and sets a positive tone for interaction. Finally, acting from calm focus frees you from the tyranny of urgency and distraction. It grants you the power to steer your life rather than be tossed about by external pressures or internal turmoil. This mastery creates a deep sense of freedom and fulfillment because you move with purpose, clarity, and strength. It is the foundation for making everything flow in your favor, turning intention into reality with grace and effectiveness. This discipline is accessible to anyone willing to commit to inner mastery. Each moment offers a new chance to pause, center, and choose purposeful action. With patience, practice, and persistence, calm focus becomes a natural way of being that elevates every area of life. It is not an endpoint, but a lifelong journey of growth, resilience, and leadership, one that brings profound peace and success in equal measure.